I never imagined that the company I rebuilt from ashes would one day be used to humiliate me. When I returned home after 10 years abroad, 10 years spent studying, struggling, and dreaming of giving my father the life he deserved, I had no idea I was walking straight into the biggest betrayal of my life. My father, Richard Hale, was a man who believed emotions were liabilities, weakness disguised as love. He raised me and my younger brother Adam with the same philosophy: work hard, trust no one, and loyalty is proven only through results. I lived by those words, believing that one day I would earn the respect he never openly expressed. I didn't know then that respect was something he had already traded long ago for ego. The Hale Manufacturing Company was on the verge of collapse when I stepped in. My father didn't ask me to help, he summoned me home as if it were my duty. I came because I believed in him. I believed in our legacy. In the beginning, he doubted every strategy I proposed. "You think the world works because you've read books?" He'd smirk. But slowly, painfully, the numbers proved me right. I spent sleepless months restructuring departments, cutting toxic contracts, negotiating new suppliers, and training employees who had long given up hope. I traveled city to city, pitching to investors who had written us off years ago. I worked through fevers, through loneliness, through every kind of frustration a man could endure. But it paid off. Within 4 years, the company's value grew from barely $3 million to $87 million. For the first time in my life, I saw pride in my father's eyes, though it flickered for only a moment each time. We had meetings where the board praised my leadership. Markets called us the comeback miracle. Magazines printed stories about the visionary son who saved Hale Manufacturing. Yet my father's eyes always narrowed at the word son, as if the world was awarding me something that should have been his alone. I ignored the feeling. I thought it was insecurity, age, or stress. But I was wrong. One evening, after the audit revealed our record-breaking quarterly growth, my father called for a family meeting. Those words never meant anything good. Adam was already seated when I entered. He was tapping on his phone, half interested in the world as usual. He had never worked a full day at the company. He never attended a single planning meeting. He preferred parties, cars, vacations, and the thrill of being the spoiled Hale heir. But he was still my brother. I always cleaned his messes without complaint. My father stood near the window, hands behind his back. "Sit," he said. I sat. He turned, his expression rigid. "The board and I have made a decision regarding the future of the company." I felt pride swell in my chest. Finally, after everything, I was going to be officially named CEO. But then he smiled, a cold, thin smirk I had never seen before. "Your brother will take over now." For a few seconds, my brain refused to process his words. I stared at him, waiting for some explanation, some reason, anything logical. But he continued, voice firm and unshakable. "He is my first choice to lead. You have done well, but this company needs a Hale who understands legacy, not someone who tries to change everything." My heartbeat thudded painfully. I built this," I whispered. "I rebuilt everything you lost. And I appreciate it," he replied casually. "But you were only doing what any son should do for his father." My stomach twisted. Adam looked up from his phone, shrugging. "It's not a big deal, brother. Dad knows what he's doing." I felt something inside me crack. I wasn't angry because Adam was chosen. I was angry because I was treated like a tool, useful, convenient, disposable. My father didn't even thank me. He used me to rebuild his empire and then tossed me aside like an outdated manual. Worse, he acted like it was his right. I stood up, calm but trembling. "Tell me one reason," I said, "one reason why he deserves it more than me." My father didn't hesitate. "Because he carries my name the way I want. You challenge me too much." Challenge. I saved his life's work. I looked at Adam. He couldn't even spell half the technical terms our industry used. He didn't know our staff. He didn't know our factories. He didn't know our investors. He didn't know anything. "You're giving him an $87 million company," I said slowly, "just because I don't obey you blindly." My father smirked. Exactly. That moment broke something deep inside me, something that would never heal in the same shape again. I walked out of that room silently, but with every step, fury burned hotter inside me. Betrayal didn't just sting. It redefined me. I had sacrificed my youth, my dreams, my life for a man who only saw me as replaceable. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. That wasn't me anymore. That night, I packed a suitcase. I left the house without telling anyone. I went to the office for the last time, walked through the departments I had revived, the teams who trusted me, the strategies that bore my name. And then I walked away from all of it. They expected me to fade. They expected me to start over from nothing. But they forgot one thing. I knew every secret, every flaw, every loophole, every vulnerability in that company. I knew the investors personally. I knew the suppliers, the contractors, the staff, the expansions, the skeletons in the closet. My father had built the company. But I was the one who rebuilt it. And now, I was going to take it back. Piece by piece, brick by brick. And when I returned, my father would finally understand what it felt like to lose everything he took for granted. The world outside Hale Manufacturing felt strangely quiet the morning after I walked away. For the first time in years, my calendar was empty. No meetings, no negotiations, no pressure, just silence, a silence that allowed anger to breathe and reshape itself into purpose. I checked into a small hotel miles from the city, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened my laptop. If my father believed I would disappear quietly, he didn't know me at all. I wasn't going to attack impulsively. Revenge was an art, slow, calculated, and devastating. I started by listing everything I knew, every supplier contract, every investor agreement, every expansion strategy scheduled for the next 3 years. I had built nearly all of them myself. Hale Manufacturing was strong, yes, but it was also balancing on fragile pillars, pillars I alone knew how to control. I smiled bitterly. My father had smirked when he said Adam would take over. It was time to take that smirk away. The first step wasn't destruction, it was creation. If I wanted to take his empire, I needed to build one of my own. Something cleaner, sharper, smarter. Something investors couldn't resist. I reached out to people who respected me, not my father. Old colleagues, university contacts, business journalists, CEOs who had once admired my turnaround skills. Every conversation began with the same shock: you left Hale. And every conversation ended with the same promise: if you ever start something, we want in. Within a month, I had secured enough interest to form my own company, Hale Dynamics. I didn't choose the name out of sentiment, I chose it because I wanted my father to hear it everywhere he went. I rented a modest office downtown and hired 10 of the brightest minds, people who believed in innovation, not tradition. We weren't competitors yet, but the seed was planted. My father didn't even know I existed in the market, but he was about to. The second step was relationships. I reached out to every major supplier Hale Manufacturing worked with. I didn't sabotage anything, not yet. I simply offered better deals, long-term contracts, and technologically advanced systems I had been designing during my last year at Hale. Most suppliers hesitated at first, loyalty to my father still held them in place. But loyalty doesn't feed families. Loyalty doesn't pay rising costs. Loyalty doesn't promise growth. And so, one by one, they signed with me, quietly, secretly. Meanwhile, news leaks began surfacing, small, harmless articles at first. Former Hale executive launches new tech-driven company. Then deeper ones: investors praise vision of ex-Hale strategist. The business world talked. And eventually, my father heard. He called me. I let the phone ring. He called again. I laughed to myself. The man who had dismissed me now wanted clarity. But I wasn't ready to speak to him. Not until he felt the shift in the ground beneath his feet. 3 months after launch, Hale Dynamics released its first prototype, a manufacturing optimization system that reduced production costs by nearly 40%. Something I had once proposed at Hale, something my father refused because it was too modern. Investors rushed in. Contracts multiplied. Within 6 months, we were valued at $12 million. And still growing. Hale Manufacturing, meanwhile, began to shake. Adam was struggling. My father had handed him a ship, but he didn't know how to steer. He held meetings he didn't understand. He approved projects without reading reports. He fired employees simply because they disagreed with him. The board grew restless. Investors whispered. Numbers slipped. But no one dared say it to my father's face. I didn't need to sabotage them. Adam was doing it himself. Then came the opportunity I had been waiting for, a huge government contract Hale Manufacturing desperately needed. The contract was critical. Without it, their quarterly revenue would collapse. And who was the project head from the government's side? A man who once said to me, if you ever run your own company, call me first. I called. We met, discussed details, shook hands. Hale Dynamics got the contract. A contract worth $20 million. The news exploded across the industry. Articles compared our innovation to Hale Manufacturing's outdated practices. Social media mocked Adam's leadership. The board panicked. Stockholders lost confidence. My father finally tried to reach me again, this time using my mother's number. When I picked up, his voice was hard, strained. What do you think you're doing? I kept my tone calm. Building what I deserve. You're destroying your family's company, he snapped. No, I replied softly. You destroyed it the day you chose ego over merit. He tried to lecture me. He tried to intimidate me. He tried to guilt me. But nothing worked. I wasn't the son who feared his disappointment anymore. I was the man he created, the man he underestimated. Then his voice cracked, just slightly. Come home. We can talk. No, I said. You only call me when you're losing. He fell silent. I ended the call. By the end of the 8th month, Hale Dynamics was valued at $35 million. We were climbing faster than anyone expected. Hale Manufacturing, meanwhile, was drowning. Suppliers were withdrawing. Investors were fleeing. The board was furious. Employees were quitting. And Adam, he was falling apart, snapping at staff, blaming everyone but himself. Then, one day, a familiar name appeared in my inbox, Linda, my father's longtime executive assistant. She wrote only one line. They're planning to remove Adam. And your father knows you are the only one who can fix this. I leaned back in my chair. The moment was close, the moment my father would finally realize the cost of choosing the wrong son. But revenge wasn't complete yet. I wanted him to ask. I wanted him to kneel, metaphorically, of course. I wanted him to admit the truth he had avoided all his life. So I waited. 5 days later, my phone rang again. This time, I answered. My father's voice was empty, defeated. We need to talk. I know, I replied. And I'll come. But this time, we'll talk on my terms. The day I returned to the Hale residence, the air felt different, not like home, but like the ruins of a past life. The driveway seemed smaller, the house older, the walls quieter. Maybe I had outgrown the place, or maybe betrayal had erased whatever warmth it once held. My father was waiting for me in his office, the same room where he had once looked me in the eye and handed my future to Adam like it was nothing. This time, he didn't stand tall. His shoulders sagged, his eyes carried sleepless nights, and the proud smirk he had worn that day was gone. He closed the door behind me. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. I didn't come for thanks, I replied. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. The board is threatening a vote. They want Adam removed. They're losing faith in me as well. I stayed silent. You know why, he continued, almost whispering. The company is falling apart. Investors are pulling out. Suppliers are leaving. We're on the brink of losing everything. Because of your decision, I said. He winced. My words hit him like stones, and I didn't soften a single one. I know, he admitted slowly. And I take responsibility. I shouldn't have made that choice. I shouldn't have chosen him over you. The admission was bitter, squeezed out like it tasted poisonous in his mouth. But I needed to hear it. Why did you? I asked. He sat down heavily, looking older than I had ever seen him. Because Adam, he listens. He doesn't question me. He follows the path I set. And I don't. You argue. You challenge. You bring ideas that scare me. He paused. Your mind is sharper than mine ever was. You see things I don't. And somewhere along the line, I felt threatened by you. The truth hit hard, but not painfully, just cold, like the final piece of a puzzle I had been assembling for years. My own son made me feel replaceable, he whispered. And so you tried to replace me, I said. He looked down. I was wrong. Silence filled the room. Heavy, raw, uncomfortable. Finally he lifted his head. I need your help. The words he had once sworn he would never say. I studied him quietly. The once unbreakable man was cracking in front of me. But revenge wasn't about watching someone fall, it was about giving them the chance to understand why they fell. What kind of help? I asked. Take over operations. Fix the company. Do what you did before. His voice trembled. And I will step aside. This time, my breath stopped. Step aside. He nodded. If you return, I'll resign as CEO. It was the closest thing to an apology a man like him could give. But I wasn't the same boy who longed for his approval. I wasn't here to reclaim what was stolen. I was here to finish what betrayal had begun. I'll help, I said calmly. Relief washed over his face, almost fragile. Thank you. But, I added sharply, not by returning. Confusion flickered in his eyes. What do you mean? Hale Dynamics is my company now. My vision. My work. I won't abandon it. He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. You made your choice once, I continued. Now I make mine. But the company. I'll save it, I said, in a way that doesn't require me to bend to you again. I leaned forward. You'll sell it. He stared at me, shocked, speechless. Sell? Hale Manufacturing. He whispered. Yes. To who? To me. He froze, eyes widening in disbelief. You want to buy the company. I want to own everything you once thought I wasn't worthy of. And I want Adam to watch it happen. He swallowed, breath unsteady. We can't afford to sell. The debt. I know the debt, I cut in. I know every weakness, every risk, every liability. I know your books better than you do. Hale Manufacturing is drowning, and you know it. Selling is the only path left. He slumped back in his chair, defeated. The board will never approve. They will, I said confidently. I've already spoken to some of them. He stared at me with disbelief, maybe awe, maybe fear. You planned all this. I prepared for it, I answered. The day you chose Adam over me, my path changed. He closed his eyes. And Adam, that's between you and him, I said quietly. But he won't be part of the company anymore. My father nodded weakly. If this is what it takes to save what we built, I'll do it. No, I corrected him softly. It's what it takes to save what I built. The next weeks unfolded like a silent storm. The board was hesitant at first, but after reviewing Hale Manufacturing's financial collapse and Hale Dynamics' explosive rise, they agreed. Desperation opens doors, pride keeps locked. My father signed the final transfer documents in a quiet meeting room. No cameras, no press, just the two of us and a lawyer. When the last signature dried, my father looked at me with a strange emptiness. It's yours now. For the first time, there was no smirk. No arrogance. Just truth. I nodded. Yes, it is. Adam came crashing into the office moments later, shouting, cursing, accusing me of betrayal. I didn't react. His rage wasn't my burden. My father tried to calm him, but Adam stormed out, slamming the door behind him. That was the last time I saw him. As we stood alone, my father spoke softly, almost breaking. You're a better man than I ever was. Not better, I replied. Just different. He looked at me for a long moment. I hope one day you'll forgive me. Forgiveness isn't needed, I said. Understanding is enough. He nodded, eyes glassy, and walked away, slowly, heavily, like a man carrying the weight of his own mistakes. When the door closed behind him, I stood in the office, the CEO office, of the company I had rebuilt twice. First from ruin, then from betrayal. But this time, it was mine. No smirks, no shadows, no stolen futures. Just destiny finally placed in the right hands. And that was the real revenge.